Mongoose is, I want to pitch my graveyard to Treasure Cruise.
That is the cost. You cannot play those two cards together. But that's a card that, when Blue-Red Delver first broke onto the scene, was all but absent from the SCG Open circuit, and in recent weeks has come back and put up some good results. We've had a second-place finish with the deck a few weeks ago. I believe Stephen Mann top-8'd in Portland last week, and these are decks that are eschewing Treasure Cruise because the green decks are so well-suited to fight these iterations of Delver.
This is interesting. This is a Blue-Red Delver list, but he does have one Underground Sea, Dylan Donegan. He's got one Underground Sea to power his 4 Cabal Therapies in the sideboard.
And 2 rounds ago, we had Dylan Donegan square up against Jim Davis, and those Cabal Therapies, Jim Davis playing Storm, those Cabal Therapies did a lot of work.
Oh, yeah. No quiet speculation for Lingering Souls Cabal Therapy yet. But
No, not quite. Listen, the Legacy metagame evolves very slowly.
I'm still waiting for quiet speculation for Roar of the Worm. When is that going to be a thing?
It would not be that bad against Blue-Red Delver. 6/6s are not that equipped to handle. It's probably not very good. But Tarmogoyf is good. Tarmogoyf is definitely good against these decks.
The only thing with quiet speculation is that it's not quite as versatile as Intuition.
It's true. But 1 less mana in Legacy is a huge deal.
Yeah, plus you get the card into your sideboard, into your graveyard faster. So are we seeing keep from both sides? Looks like both players are snapping it off.
Kent looked like he had 2 lands and a Tarmogoyf, so
that's always good.
Probably not sending that back as Dylan opens up with Delver of Secrets.
Do we know for sure that's Delver of Secrets? Could that be a Huntmaster of the Fells? Maybe
Checking
a Bloodline Keeper?
Checking the deck list, see if there's anything else.
Checking it twice.
All right, confirmed.
All right.
Better to be safe than sorry, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Kent can open up with one of his own. That is met by a Daze from Dylan, and Kent dazes right back. No flip here for Dylan. But a replaying of the Volcanic Island, a Fork Bolt, 1/1 to Kent and the Delver, and comes across for a point of damage.
Being on the play, so good in this matchup.
And in Constructed Magic in general, and particularly in Legacy. You see an Underground Sea here, a Ponder from Kent. Looking at Disfigured, Daze, Deathrite Shaman.
What do you think about the surge of disfigures lately?
I think it makes a lot of sense. Kent had, I was covering a feature match of his a few weeks ago where he was playing this deck. He had 1 copy in his main deck, and I said I thought it should have been 2 or 3, given where the metagame's at. Again, no flip from Dylan. 1 point comes across. Scalding Tarn, fetching. And a young Pyromancer. Kent will daze that as well.
Yeah, I mean, he wants to get to 2 for this Tarmogoyf, but he also can't fall any further behind than he already is.
And here is a land and a Disfigure. And Kent now under no pressure. This would be a very good spot for Dylan to have Treasure Cruise.
Yeah, either one of these players, the first one that actually busts out a Treasure Cruise is going to have a real nice life.
Well, Kent already with his in hand.
All he needs is to get 2 more cards into his graveyard. A Fetch Clan would be exactly what the doctor ordered. And it looks like he might have one.
But Kent also with Tarmogoyf, so even if the Treasure Cruise doesn't resolve here, he's got another really nice backup plan here.
Oh yeah, most likely he'd lead with the Tarmogoyf and have the Treasure Cruise come in third. Or come in when he has 30 mana.
So land and another Delver. And Dylan passes the turn back. Probably an indicator that he does not have Treasure Cruise right now.
Interesting.
Ponder the play for Kent.
Kind of an indication that he is on the Treasure Cruise plan, not the Tarmogoyf plan.
Well, he also may be concerned about days in this spot. He may say, well, I can spend this turn, for example, pondering and playing Deathrite Shaman. If the Deathrite Shaman gets dazed, no big deal. And that opens up, you know, an even greater likelihood that the Tarmogoyf and or the Treasure Cruise resolve.
Absolutely. So it looks like we are going to see the Deathrite Shaman. Dylan says that's fine. This time, ooh, Treasure Cruise.
All right. And so it starts here. Going to lead off the turn here with the Treasure Cruise.
And this is how the snowballing starts. It hasn't gotten out of hand, but if he found a way to counter Kent's Treasure Cruise here, that could be problematic.
And in the ponder right now, looking at a Force of Will among other cards. We'll see if Dylan wants it.
Are you pondering what I'm pondering?
Probably not. I suspect you and I ponder different things.
I was just wondering where we're going to find rubber pants our size.
Oh.
You know, if this is one of those take over the world type of situations.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I don't know. See a post-combat lightning bolt, main phase lightning bolt here, taking down Ken's Deathrite Shaman. Not a bad turn here from Dylan.
Yeah. I was hoping he just sent it upstairs.
Just let him know.
Yeah, send a message, you know.
Delver comes across, and another Delver. I believe Dylan's hand is Force of Will plus another Treasure Cruise.
Play him like he's Patrick Dickman, you know? Just lightning bolts.
Just straight to the top rope.
So now one of the tough things here is the Tarmogoyf, which is ostensibly good against Blue Red Delver. Not great at blocking Delver of Secrets itself.
Though Kent's got some play in his hand. He's got an Abrupt Decay. You see Kent going to fire off his own Treasure Cruise. We'll see if Dylan wants to respond with anything. Asking how many cards are in Kent's hand.
And it's interesting, he has to daze here or forever hold his peace because the Abrupt Decay is undazable.
So Dylan says that's fine, that resolves. An Underground C for Kent. Has the option here to just Abrupt Decay, not play into a daze. Just going to pass the turn back, holding up his Abrupt Decay.
And then we see a fetch land from Dylan.
This might be another Treasure Cruise.
Why not? Question is, does he swing first? I would. If you draw out the Abrupt Decay, saves you mana.
And here's the Treasure Cruise. And Ken says, that's fine, I guess.
Yep, things definitely snowballing for Dylan.
Monastery Swift Spear.
Looking real good to have not attacked first, getting that extra damage in.
And there's an Abrupt Decay on the flipped Delver of Secrets. And a post-combat Young Pyromancer.
So this is why you need to have like Golgari Charm.
And now Ken in a bit of a trouble with his colored mana. Only has the one green. It's going to go after Underground C with the Wasteland. Cast Tarmogoyf. And Dylan says, no thanks. And that's really rough for Kent because that was basically his whole prize this game was getting to Tarmogoyf, and now does not resolve. Deathrite Shaman. Dylan untaps. Reveals the Delver of Secrets. Nothing.
So, does Kent have an Abrupt Decay?
I believe he still has one left in his hand.
Yeah, this Young Pyromancer could be problematic.
He's going to go ahead and block a token, take 3 points of damage, falls to 8. Another
Pyromancer. Yeah, this is what happens when you Treasure Cruise. You end up with just so many more resources than your opponent.
Kent drawing a Tarmogoyf, but again, only one green source in hand right now. Cannot cast Abrupt Decay and Tarmogoyf in the same turn.
Deathrite Shaman would have to be the only way. But then he loses that as a blocker.
Yeah.
I guess he could block an Abrupt Decay. That might have to be the play.
Sure. Here's a Brainstorm. Force of Will. Daze, another Force of Will.
Things are getting desperate. What are Kent's best ways to try to get back out of this? I mean, does he have
his own Treasure Cruise, removal spells to take care of the Young Pyromancer and hope that the Tarmogoyf does enough work?
Makes sense.
Passes the turn. Daze. So I believe this was a misstep from Kent because Dylan can still target the Abrupt Decay with this Daze and get some triggers out of his Young Pyromancer.
Would have been good to do this on the upkeep. But it looks like Dylan is not sure that's even worth it.
Yeah, contemplating now.
The biggest reason to do this is when are you going to get any other value out of the days? At least this way you have 2 1/1s.
Right, the argument for keeping the days is if you find a cantrip plus a shuffler, the days is something that you can put back. There's also the question of how much is making a couple 1/1s worth when your opponent has a Tarmogoyf and a Deathrite Shaman, and
Right.
it looks like Dylan's going to say, okay. And now Ken's starting to maybe get things turned around a little bit.
Yeah, he's beginning to come back. But the problem is that as soon as Dylan draws a single cantrip, he's going to explode with these 2 Pyromancers. The nice thing is that Deathrite Shaman sitting in play offers him a little bit of a life buffer.
I think to your point, I think Ken may be contemplating an attack here. He might say, you know what, I can't win on defense. Maybe he has to hope Dylan misses his draws for a couple turns, just finds lands and creatures, and Tarmogoyf can start applying some real pressure.
Kent's still in the tank. What to do with this Tarmogoyf Deathrite Shaman situation? How to maximize?
Also considering main facing the Deathrite Shaman here to keep Dylan off of resolving a Treasure Cruise if he happens to draw it. A lot going on here from Ken's side.
And he declines. Wow.
Another young Pyromancer.
A single cantrip and things are going to get crazy.
Ken gonna Deathrite Shaman in a turn, knocking Dylan down to 12. Now, at what point does Ken go on the offensive here and try to win the game with Tarmogoyf? If ever.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, particularly now that he's looking at 4 attackers, I think there's a good chance that he's just going to hide behind this Deathrite Shaman and try to milk that for a little bit. We'll see. This game is going to get out of hand real fast if Dylan draws a spell.
So we are going to be cutting back here as we have a momentary delay in the match. Welcome back to the booth. Patrick Sullivan, Patrick Chapin, Star City Games Open Series featuring the Season 4 Invitational here in Seattle, Washington. Looks like even though 2 Treasure Cruises have resolved and Ken is barely holding on to the game, it's not inconceivable for him to pull that one out.
No, he's actually starting to make a little bit of headway. The Deathrite Shaman is giving him not just a little bit of a clock on Dylan, it's giving him a backup in the form of a way to gain a little bit of life if things go south, and it's giving him a way to keep Dylan off of Treasure Cruise. And it looks like we're passing back over to Kent. Kent's turn. He's got all the permission in the world, but that's not going to help him against an army of young Pyromancer tokens if Dylan draws anything he can cast.
And Ken says go again.
Ooh.
And there is the cantrip you mentioned.
This is where it goes, this is where things escalate very quickly.
Gataxian Pro reveals a hand of days and 2 Force of Wills. What are your thoughts on just using a Force of Will right here?
The only problem is you walk into a daze.
No, I mean alternate casting it.
I know. You walk into a daze to make 3 more tokens.
Trigger. Yep.
And then you're just dead on board.
Fair point.
This is a real tough spot now. Interesting. I'm not sure I could kind of imagine just getting in there. The Swift Spear was even a 2/3 anyway, so it's not like the Deathrite Shaman could punk it.
Yeah. Here's the thing. If Dylan's top card is a land or an uncastable spell, I think he still gets to hold it. He can't quite kill Kent just yet, I think. Oh, maybe now with the Delver flipped, I think he may have it.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's 10. It's going to have to block 2 Pyromancers and then drop to 1. This is where that extra damage would have been helpful, but
yeah.
It's going to be hard for Kent to come back game 1. I don't think he has any cards in his deck that can make up this kind of ground. He's got Deathray Shaman, which could potentially gain him 2 extra life, but he's just too far behind.
Counting again, confirming to make sure he has to block the way that he has to block.
Well, he could block elsewise. He just has to use the Deathray Shaman to gain 2 life.
Yeah. And Deathbright Shaman down.
So now Kent, now is he at 1 or 3?
1. I think he barely survived, but
knocks it in.
nothing to be done this turn. He's going to give it up. Dylan Donegan on the back of those treasure cruises takes game 1.
Now, in the sideboard, Dylan has, that Cabal Therapy that we mentioned before, but I don't think this is the matchup for it. It seems like his primary weapons are going to be things like Dismember as an additional answer to something like Tarmogoyf, and Pyroblast just to be able to counter Treasure Cruise.
Yeah, having some efficient tools to fight Treasure Cruise. A lot of these decks go to those kind of cards, and it makes sense, as you saw. Game number 1, they're really defined by Dylan, able to get his Treasure Cruises to resolve and overpower Ken, even though that Tarmogoyf was probably worth multiple cards. Just didn't really matter enough. On the other side, Kent, with a Pithy Needle, a Thoughtseize, a True Nemesis, 2 copies of Disfigure, 2 Flusterstorms, 2 Nile Spellbombs, 2 copies of Golgari Charm, 2 Crozan Grip, 2 Vendilion Click. I really like the Golgari Charms a lot in this matchup, as it can catch up even if Young Pyromancer gets out of control. I think the 2 copies of Disfigure, so he can go up to 4 copies, very good here to keep Dylan's board contained.
Definitely.
I don't know if he's going to want to go so far as Nile Spellbomb, but again, if the matchup is about Treasure Cruise, then going after his graveyard is very powerful.
Yeah, it's a tough call if you got that kind of time, but I think it's very possible that he might want to. The combination of 4 Disfigures backed up with 4 Abrupt Decays, plus 2 Golgari Charms in case things slip a little out of control. I think that's going to go a long way towards making sure that he can actually defend himself this game.
It's a real game plan. I mean, having that much cheap removal can help a lot, especially with backed up by Tarmogoyf. You might be able to clock Dylan so fast that even if Dylan gets ahead in the Treasure Cruise battle, Ken still got some game.
Now, with all these Disfigures and no Snapcaster Mages anyway, is it possible you want Dead Weight as Disfigure number 5?
Maybe.
I mean, that's kind of crazy, but...
It's also an enchantment for your Tarmogoyf in a matchup where no other people are putting enchantments in the graveyard.
And it's one that actually goes to the graveyard pretty often.
Yeah, no, I think there's an argument there. As we wait for these players to get ready for game number 2, we're going to talk about the newest addition to the Patrick Chapin Literary Collection, the update to Next Level Magic, the 2015 edition, now available.
Yeah, absolutely. All-purpose strategy guide for how to get better at Magic, how to think about Magic, how to get better at Magic, and how to win more matches. Could not recommend enough.
Both as a player and as a deck builder, a lot of valuable information in there.
Yeah, plus it's a good time.
It is a good time. Again, the paperback, for those of you who have been waiting for the paperback to come back out, this is your opportunity. If you want it on ebook, it's available there as well. StarCityGames.com/NLM to order your copy today. So we head on back to the match. Kent with quite the hole to dig himself out of. Yeah. I still think, with access to Tarmogoyf and cheap removal, even if Dylan's a little bit more efficient as the Treasure Cruise deck, Kent might have enough angles of attack to have a positive matchup here post-board.
I sure like Dylan's position, though. He's playing Blue-Red Delver, nothing fancy, nothing clever, and he's got the 3 best creatures. I mean, Monastery Swift Spear, Delver Secrets, and Young Pyromancer. Which one of them isn't better than a Tarmogoyf?
Monastery Swift Spear is, it's close at least.
Maybe. Deathray Shaman is close to as good as Monastery Swift Spear.
I think contextually in the matchup, Tarmogoyf might be as good as the threats that Dylan's bringing to the table.
What do you think are the best 1/2s in Legacy? I mean, Monastery Swift Spear, Deathray Shaman,
Stoneforge Mystic.
Stoneforge Mystic's a nice one. Tarmogoyf,
some percentage of the time.
1/2, aka the Abyss.
As Kent's going to open up here with a Tropical Island and a Ponder. Looking at Tarmogoyf, Abrupt Decay, Treasure Cruise.
Abrupt Decay, a card that was designed with Legacy in mind. The card was actually literally designed for Legacy.
And makes a lot of sense. It's a format full of cheap cheap permanents that people are trying to protect with counter spells. So Abrupt Decay fits in very naturally into that kind of format.
And they just wanted to take a lot of pressure off of the people who had, they want to take the counterbalance aspect and tone that down a little.
Yeah, very good answer to counterbalance. You see Dylan with Volcanic Island and a Ponder of his own. No, Abrupt Decay is the perfect kind of content to add to Legacy.
Oh, yeah.
Cards like True Name Nemesis, they come with a risk. Treasure Cruise, Deathrite Shaman, but Abrupt Decay is almost all upside. Anyone trying to protect a cheap permanent with counterspells is probably up to no good.
Yeah. Forget that guy.
And he's won plenty of matches over the years anyway.
Yeah, he can take the L on this one. So what do you think about these Wastelands in Kent's Sultai Delver deck? You don't see Wasteland as much anymore in Legacy.
Well, alongside Deathrite Shaman, it's the perfect complement.
Yeah.
You get a mana advantage. What better way to leverage it?
Sure, absolutely.
Now, the Sultai Delver decks do historically have pretty bad mana, and it's weird in a format where you have dual lands and fetch lands. But we saw that game, the fact that Kent didn't have access to double green came up sometimes, and sometimes the deck isn't that efficient chaining together all of its spells, and one of the culprits is the Wastelands.
He's not even playing Hymn to Turok, which is usually makes things even worse, and he's still having a little bit of mana issues.
Yeah. You see Kent here, he's just going to cast the Tarmogoyf, not fearing a daze. And Dylan says that's fine. Forked Bolt to play. Daze here from Kent, and this is just an attempt to get an instant into the graveyard.
Yeah, it's kind of fun that Forked Bolt, because of Ponder being there, would still have killed the Tarmogoyf. However, the Daze, by necessity, makes it so that even if Dylan pays, the Forked Bolt isn't enough damage to kill the Tarmogoyf.
So I think Dylan's going to say, okay, that resolves.
Tarmogoyf up to a 2/3.
And Dylan with a land there, it's, if he's not going to fetch, that's going to stun his development as well.
Kent with the ability to Wasteland Volcanic Island if necessary in order to make this Tarmogoyf even bigger.
So good start here. We'll see what Kent wants to do here, looking at a hand with some cantrips in it. Again, no black mana just yet, as Kent will ponder.
I like the sequencing here, leading with the Ponder so that in the event that Dylan has a Daze, he can pay with the Wasteland. By doing it in this order, he can still follow up with the Wasteland depending on what he draws into with Ponder.
So Dylan is going to fetch in response.
The single biggest thing Kent's looking for here is black mana, right?
Yes, that unlocks his whole hand, as you see a Pyroblast.
Dylan, very aware that Kent is not satisfied with his hand, needs to dig into something more.
So Tarmogoyf now at 3/4, instant land sorcery.
Kent deciding, does he even need to Wasteland now? Now that the fetch land has been popped, is it possible he wants to hold it?
Well, whose land is more valuable? That's the question.
I mean, he knows these Delver decks don't play very much mana. They don't need it, though.
And maybe more important for him to be able to pay for a Daze with the Brainstorm he needs to resolve next turn than anything else. So you see Young Pyromancer, play from Dylan. Gataxian Probe now alternate cost. That's going to trigger the Young Pyromancer. Kent reveals a hand of Brainstorm, Disfigure, Abrupt Decay, and Treasure Cruise. 3 cards in the graveyard.
Absolutely. I mean, Kent next turn, Brainstorm puts him at 4 cards. If he finds a fetch land, that's 5. Wasteland 6, he's still a little short.
But if he finds black mana, he has a turn of Brainstorm and Disfigure the Young Pyromancer, which is a pretty good consolation prize, setting the stage for Treasure Cruise the following turn.
Absolutely.
Kent takes an untap. It is True Name Nemesis. 1 copy in his sideboard. Brainstorm from Kent. And that's no mana and no shuffler. Spell Pierce, Brainstorm, and Abrupt Decay the cards.
So is there another Brainstorm you said?
Yes.
So that's his best hope, is the next turn he can Brainstorm and just try to get out of it, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, his hand offers no other option at this point. There's the Treasure Cruise, but he's not going to be able to resolve that for a while.
At least the Brainstorm he does next turn will be a 5th card, so that if he finds a fetch land at 6, the Wasteland in play is 7, and Treasure Cruise for 1 mana. At least that's a thing.
Kent going on the offensive here. Defensive? Offensive? Which one is it going to be?
Yeah, the big thing he doesn't want here is to run face first into an elemental token and then get bolted.
That would be a disaster. Ken here going to fetch at the end of the turn. Goes and gets another volcanic island. These decks used to play some number of basics, but now with the black splash, it's just all fetch lands and duels.
I like it.
And
no regard whatsoever.
Who cares about a wasteland anyway when you're playing this kind of deck?
Yeah, I like these land-heavy decks like Dylan's, playing 16 land, 5 of which actually tap for mana.
Welcome to Legacy.
So Dylan with an extra elemental token as a result of the end step brainstorm. We talked about Kent looking for black mana. What's Dylan looking for?
Anything at all. Anything's fine.
He just wants gas, whether it's Treasure Cruise, some burn, cantrips, whatever.
Dismember would definitely play. You see Dylan's just going to use a couple bolts here, take care of that Tarmogoyf, and that's going to open up some attacking.
Yeah, he even gets to send one upstairs because of the fork bolt splitting.
There's
quite the army.
And a Delver.
This is about the time you want that Golgari charm, but he doesn't have the black mana.
Or the Golgari charm.
Mm-hmm. Fortunately, brainstorm.
When he gets 2 fresh looks at it, it could be black mana and Golgari charm. Misty Rainforest.
Well, that is a start.
It unlocks his hand, but has too much damage already been done.
Yeah, I mean, he's not at critical low life yet. However, he's so far behind on board. This is a tough spot for Kent. His back is against the wall, but he's got a lot of options. He's got a lot of plays he can make. Disfigure, a nice tempo play this turn. He has the potential to shuffle away his 2 worst cards, disfigure the Young Pyromancer, so at least it doesn't get any worse. Problem is, if that Delver flips, he's on such a short clock.
Well, he may have to play this game just assuming that the top of his deck is going to be a Golgari charm. Maybe a removal spell gets used on Delver of Secrets instead of Young Pyromancer.
It's possible.
Because Golgari charms is the only way to win anyway.
Maybe. I think he still has time to do something. I mean, the fact that he's looking at 3 Pyromancer tokens, if he plays a Tarmogoyf next turn and kills the Delver, he might actually be able to stabilize.
Ken here, gonna fetch. Gets an underground C.
Kent having to decide how much can he afford to, how greedy can he be? How much is he counting on drawing a Golgari charm?
And I think it might be the only way out.
The nice thing about True Name Nemesis, though, if he can deal with the Delver and the Pyromancer, True Name Nemesis could potentially hold off these tokens.
It's true. He can maybe block. You see Brainstorm revealed to the Delver Secrets on upkeep. Ken's going to take that opportunity to disfigure the Delver
Interesting. And this is letting the Pyromancer live despite knowing Brainstorm is on top. That's pushing pretty hard on the Golgari charm avenue.
And I like it. Like I said, I think he's not going to win this game any other way.
And I guess that's an argument to not play the True Name Nemesis. Give himself more draws because he doesn't want to have to kill his own True Name Nemesis. Wow, a second Pyromancer.
Just throwing caution to the wind here. Second Young Pyromancer. Knows the last card in hand is Brainstorm.
That's gangster.
And this is definitely a lethal attack next turn, so Kent's got to find Golgari charm. Gonna start things off with a Treasure Cruise. Dylan will respond.
Yeah, I mean, Dylan would absolutely love to find a Pyroblast off of this Brainstorm.
Here's Brainstorm. That's going to be 2 Young Pyromancer triggers. Drawn 1, 2 go back. Treasure Cruise resolves. Disfigure. Tarmogoyf. believe the last card drawn was a land.
It's tough without the Golgari charm.
And he shows the hand, and that's going to do it. Ken Ketter loses to Dylan Donegan 2-0, and Dylan, one player who's trying to maybe sneak his way at the last moment into the Players' Championship, a perfect 8-0 day one.
Well, you